My name is Ginny, also known as 2/3 Lotus, everywhere on the internet. This clip is part of my series, The Poets of Twitch, where I analyze my viewers' writing live on stream. Nothing has been edited out, so you're seeing this exactly as streamed with all of the imperfections and tangents that come with being live. If you want to catch me live or want more information, check out the description. Otherwise, enjoy some excellent writing.
I'm definitely going to still read it a couple times again, get my bearings again on the poem, and go over the things we already talked about, but try to fill in enough, and also maybe just restart, because I might not remember all the notes that I made. I mean, I remember it's about youth and growing up and these things. We'll see, though. Here is Flow by Stylishfail, with notes from last time that remain elusive. When I was a knave, I filled my pants with pebbles. They were heavy, dirty, and wore my pockets down. All the evenings I made my way down a winding local lane, past panting, scowling joggers, by all the yapping men. I trudged through many flower beds, sneered at the warning signs. I smiled at frightened critters fleeing from my form. Then in the full moon's light, I saw the pond, or puddle? Still water, anyway, and heaved my pebbles in. With every throw, I tried to make a bigger wave, scatter white reflections to see my ripples spread. I dreamed of greater oceans and pebbles bigger than the stars to make my waves so grand our moon would fall and drown. But when my pants grew bigger and my pockets held more stones, I learned to tread more lightly across the flowers and the lawns. I never threw like David, and my pebbles always drowned. Nor do I know my ripple that hit the furthest shore. Now I walk the footpaths and love my neighbor's tales. I cheer my local jogger and tend my garden's bloom. I keep my pockets empty and follow all the signs. My nights I spend at home, mending kiddos' pants. Flow by Stylishfail. I adore the word yapping here. Not just because we talk about yapping as a colloquialism and a sort of silly word, but because I think it really describes how one in this state of youth would see people talking. The youth who want things to happen, who hate small talk and want to move forward and change. And men just yap. They're just talking. Why are they just yapping? Yapping is meaningless. Yap, yap, yap. Which maybe means I don't yap. I don't know. Yapping has some connotations that I don't necessarily like for myself. You read it beautifully. I'm glad I chose the right word then. Well, every word that is chosen is right to some extent, in that it was chosen. Of course, we can then argue as to the word's impact and how it is used and what it's meant to communicate. And at that point, we might decide it's wrong in some sense. The right word is the one that conveys meaning the best. The issue is that best is really hard to quantify. We try on this channel. We try to communicate meaning the best. Parenthesis. Meaning. And it's sort of funny that we try to do this because it's very impossible. It's because best is maybe a lie. Well, best in the sense of an ultimate best, a perfection. But we can also communicate something the best way we can, which is different from the best way. And that's probably reasonable. Right? We have our words, we have our ideas. And these ideas want to be communicated in a certain way. They desire communication. And we can attempt to communicate these ideas in many ways, and eventually we maybe come to find the best way that these ideas end up being communicated to us. The right word is the one that conveys meaning the best. Conveys our meaning. Conveys the meaning we desire. I think it's just like a slightly imperfect statement. The right word is the one that understands the meaning that we desire. But I think I'm more of a descriptivist in linguism than you, as opposed to a prescriptivist, meaning is more than the message and such. Meaning and message, I'm not sure how different. Well, no, message is something to take. Message is something to learn and understand. Meaning is something uncertain. Dreamy, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. I want to bleach my hair blonde. Then do it. Go for it. Unless it's going to get you, like, I don't know, attacked by someone who doesn't want your hair bleached blonde, but maybe those are also the people we shouldn't be listening to. I'm going to read this poem again, just because we only read it once and then meandered into conversation about quality. And then we'll try to keep analyzing. Some warm, with maybe some cooler, brighter parts. I don't know descriptions of blonde, but go for it. Here's Flow by Stylishfail. When I was a knave, I filled my pants with pebbles. They were heavy, dirty, and wore my pockets down. All the evenings I made my way down a winding local lane, past panting, scowling joggers, by all the yapping men. I trudged through many flower bed, sneered at the warning signs. I smiled at frightened critters fleeing from my form. Then, in the full moon's light, I saw the pond, or puddle? still water anyway, and heaved my pebbles in. With every throw, I tried to make a bigger wave, scatter white reflections to see my ripples spread. I dreamed of greater oceans and pebbles bigger than the stars. To make my waves so grand, our moon would fall and drown. But when my pants grew bigger and my pockets held more stones, I learned to tread more lightly across the flowers and lawns. I never threw like David, and my pebbles always drowned, nor do I know my ripple that hit the furthest shore. Now I walk the footpaths and love my neighbors' tales. I cheer my local jogger and tend my garden's bloom. I keep my pockets empty and follow all the signs. My nights I spend at home mending kiddos' pants. Flow by Stylishfail. I think I'm understanding some things sort of upon a second read of what is effective about the flow, which is good. That's what you're asking about for advice here, right? What's your hair color now? What kind of texture? Dark brown. It's that cold wood brown. It's thin, half straight, half curly. Cold wood brown. I do like that description as well. But yeah, change and change boldly, right? Is this poetry? Yes. So Dreamy and 5 zeros. This channel is a poetry channel. That's kind of all we do. I call myself the poet of Twitch. And people send me their work from chat, anyone, new writers, experienced writers, not writers looking to become writers, and I analyze them. I try to understand what they're saying and listen to their voice and give their voice a place to speak and be heard by other people, and then sometimes I give feedback. You're high, you didn't even notice. She's really insightful. Thank you, Stylishfail. Very useful tips. Not a paid actor. You are bot. Stylishfail is very much not a bot. Stylishfail, do something to prove you're a bot. Do some like Turing test stuff. I know you're joking. Free viewers. The true way to prove you're not a bot. Ironically, pretend you are in fact a bot. So, I want to talk about the changes that the subject goes through in this poem. Do I play piano? I have some desire to learn, but I definitely don't play piano. I play the saxophone, and I'm getting back into it recently. I'm getting back into it learning jazz. I've been listening to a lot of Charlie Parker, and I desire to bebop. Do I have a high voice? Oh, crack. Do I have a high voice? Like a voice when I'm high, or like a higher pitched voice? Or is my voice high? Or like a singing falsetto? I noticed that your voice has a deepness, but it seems delicate. Maybe it's a tenor. It is a tenor and even a baritone, but I don't allow it to be, because I'm trans. Here is my voice if I don't try. This is my boy voice. But I'm trans and I don't want to talk like a boy. So this is where we talk. I know because my piano is by my side right now. Awesome, so you play piano. That's very cool. Music is a beautiful thing. So I've practiced some degree talking up here in something that more resembles an alto, but certainly insightful can certainly a good ear should recognize that it in fact is more like a tenor. No, but I have a keyboard. Okay, awesome. I used to give my voice extra bass when I worked at a radio station as a teen. Not something I do anymore. Understandable.
Welcome to 95.3 rock and roll. Next up, we're playing some Rolling Stones. Something radio. I don't know.
Let's continue with this poem. I want to talk about something. I don't know what I want to talk about with this poem. I want to talk, though. I like talking. Not yapping like the yapping men. Maybe this is something to talk about. So I said that I really like the word yapping in this poem. Because I think it's a very insightful use of a colloquialism that normally one might think is sort of comedic. And in a way it is in this poem. It's painting a picture of all of these other people, all of these sort of locals, as something that our subject does not care for. Our subject doesn't really care. Like, not interested in the locals. And in that regard, when one is young and one wants to get out and do things and act and change, which is implied elsewhere in this poem, which we'll get to, we'll fill in, it can often seem like your town, the people around you who are just living their life and happily living their life, are a sort of mockery of what you want to do, of how you want to be more. And so we see the men who are talking, we see the men who are telling tales as yapping. We see the jogger who is scowling and panting and struggling as sort of negative. And yet, later we come to realize it's not so much. I wanted to learn Anglo-Saxon, but I think you would be a good teacher. I ain't English very well. I'm from Brazil. Well, absolutely hang out. We speak English here. Stylishfail is Dutch. There are many international people in my chat. At least one from Brazil, one from Chile, maybe a Spanish person. We had a Portuguese person hanging around for a while, a German, a Czechian, many. Nashi used to be here frequently. He's from Japan. Nerdarine is from Pakistan. Penguino Man is from Singapore. I must have more international people than English speaker or English natives. Everyone speaks English, but many English second language fellows. So you're totally welcome here. And if you do want to write and practice writing in English, if you are a poet or want to be, like, send me your work and I'll read it and I can incorporate some help in English as part of that, because that's cool too. That's the link. Open to all and any. Stylishfail just put it in chat. Anyway, we have this picture of youth. The youth who wants to probably get out of the town. They don't like the place they live. This is, I think, often an idea in youth, is like doing something bigger. Thank you so much, Stylishfail. It. You're the best. Bigger, right? Improved your writing by $1. There you go, Stylishfail. This is the sort of framing I should use. Every time someone gives me money, their writing gets better. I'm addicted to fantasy, and there's no way to ignore that British fantasy is the best, so you must be a Tolkien fan then, and other such folks. That's awesome. Or even older? Or are we going like sort of, no. Okay. Ain't like Tolkien. Interesting. So we like British fantasy that is not Tolkien. Fascinating. I like fantasy as well. Fantasy and science fiction were what I really grew up on. For one of the first things I remember reading was the Harry Potter series. And is she British? Is she American? I don't actually know. And high fantasy, I read a lot in middle school and high school. Science fiction I still do read. I just finished Left Hand of Darkness by Le Guin, which is a beautiful science fiction book. I don't like high fantasy, but I like weird fiction and sci-fi. As you should. Oh, yeah. You and Pratchett. It is known that I like the Discworld books. Said it before you said it. So our subject wants to do something bigger in life. They want to go out. And I think I'm fairly convinced about this idea by the next 3 stanzas. Then in the full moon's light. And there's probably a symbol here, actually. I would say something like Game of Thrones or Berserk, King Arthur. Although they are from other places, they have Germanic, Anglo-Saxon mythology. I understand. This makes sense. The sort of British Anglo fantasy land that is occasionally used in science fiction. I understand. I haven't read Berserk. Game of Thrones I've read some of. And Arthurian, definitely a good vibe. So, you said a. Then in the full moon's light, I saw the pond or puddle, still water anyway, and heaved my pedal in. Like dragons, warlocks, kings, and awesome. That's sick. Oh, you're getting into Dutch folklore. That's awesome. There's so much to read. So much to read. So, then in the full moon's light. The full moon is often a symbol of a lot of different things in literature. One is change. It's the end of a cycle and the beginning of something new. This is one way that the moon is used culturally as a symbol. Any other? Do we have thoughts? Symbols? Or what does the moon mean in culture? We're doing this. We do this often. Dreamy, I will just ask my chat. Here's a symbol used in a piece of work. What does it mean in to you, in your life? What are the connotations of a full moon? We attach many ideas, many themes to the full moon. It appears in many stories. What do we think? Also, Drowning Devil, welcome. What do you think about the full moon? Don't moons symbolize motherhood? Possibly. I have not heard of this, but that sounds reasonable. I mean, the moon is often feminine. Motherhood. Luna is generally feminine. Sol is generally masculine. You've heard of it? Okay, so motherhood, and that's probably a very poignant symbol within this poem itself. So, change, motherhood, anything else? The full moon can often, I think, mean something like safety, as opposed to a new moon where it is dark, where it is deeply difficult to see in the night. The full moon is a boon for travelers, right? Also because the menstrual cycle is the lunar cycle. Oh, this makes sense. Not saying it's something I meant though. Well, it's not about what you meant anymore. The poem is in my hands, and I understand the full moon is a symbol for many things, and you do, potentially, subconsciously, but you did put full moon on the page. In the anime Evangelion, they symbolize the creation of life, and are containers of both technological and esoteric. And yes, the moons are very feminine. Evangelion was excellent. I only watched Neon Genesis Evangelion, not anything after, but I enjoyed it deeply. So, feminine in general. Feminine. I think is it with an I? I guess it is. Feminine. The feminine as life, the masculine as the part. Does that sound right? I do think it does. Kind of struggled to get through Evangelion. Need to rewatch. Yeah, and then change, we have definitely cycles, if we're talking about the feminine, the menstrual, but also things like tides, right? The moon is connected to this, and we do bring in the moon again later with waves and tides and these sorts of changes, as well as the moving forward in life. So, while you may not have intended some deeper connotation to the moon, it feels like it wants to be there, and it feels consistent with the poem, actually, especially as we're talking about growing up into something like motherhood. So, then in the full moon's light, I saw the pond, or puddle, still water anyway. This is interesting. Still water, and we have water later moving. Hi, I'm reading Wuthering Heights, and Nellie has nerves of effing steel. Welcome in, Flower Heart. Many new people today. I've not read Wuthering Heights, but yeah, I've never read it. What's it about? Sounds like it's about someone with nerves of steel named Nellie. Or maybe it's not about them, but they exist. And how are you, Flower Heart? We're currently reading poetry and doing analysis. My specialty. Then in the full moon's light, I saw the pond or puddle. Or puddle. Still water, anyway. And heaved my pebbles in. With every throw, I tried to make a bigger wave. Scatter white reflections to see my ripples spread. Pebbles. Earth. Something of where we are. Stone and these things have a connotation of stability and place. And yet here we are throwing these pebbles, trying to make a change. And this is the condition of our young person. Looking at the still water of home, something deeply uninteresting. Uninteresting. And trying to make a change in their life. It's a gothic book, and revenge and have a ghost and the final of the book. Yes, you're very high. Victorian England, everyone are toxic and trying to ruin each other's lives. Understandable why one would need nerves of steel if everyone is trying to ruin your life. That sounds like it requires some great degree of courage. Pretty bitches in drawing rooms. The book is part Game of Thrones. Stoneheart fanboy here. I see. So it's very, very conniving drama, perhaps, as I'm hearing from you all. Lady Stoneheart is a character inspired by Wuthering Heights, in Wuthering Heights. Very interesting. I should read this book. I would like to read this book. I'm aware of this book, and I know I would like to read it, but I don't own a copy. But I hope to own a copy of, like, every book in my lifetime, and this is a sort of unreasonable goal. But I'll consider this a recommendation from two people. With every throw, I tried to make a bigger wave. Scatter white reflections to see my ripples spread. I like this as well. So, reflections in water. Of course, if the water is still, then it is something we can see our reflection in. We can see reflection in stillness. This makes me in some way think of the myth of Narcissus, who is the Greek guy who looked into the reflection of a pond and became so enraptured with his own face that he never left, and he died. Narcissist. Self-centered. Which is, of course, a very still image. Narcissus never moves. Narcissus never leaves because Narcissus is content and deeply enamored with who he is and what he has. Our young knave does not want this, though. Our young knave destroys the reflections. Want to see my ripples spread. Take those pieces of me that are currently stuck in wherever I am and find somewhere new, find greater oceans, pebbles bigger than stars, just more, disrupt, change, be someone, to make waves so grand our moon would fall and drown. And this is fun because it inverts the idea of the tides, where the moon being big is what pulls on the water on Earth and makes the tides happen. And yet, our subject wants to create such big waves, so much tidal force, so much change, that it changes those things that change them. Because our subject is sort of represented in the water, in their reflection. They want to supersede those things that control them. They want to supersede the town, the world, and they want to be someone who does something. This is a very understandable feeling in youth. This is how I feel sometimes. A lot, actually, in my ambitions and rock throwing. But our subject comes to learn later that this is maybe not the way that they are content with. And we will continue to talk about that after I refill my tea and run a little ad break, during which you all should practice some self-care, go to the bathroom, drink water, etc. And I'll be back very soon. So stay put. Or, go do self-care, but then come back. I like having y'all here. so hot, 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 hot. Welcome back. I'm still Ginny. 2/3 Lotus, the poet of Twitch. And this person says I can get cheap viewers on a Russian website. Oh my gosh. I am so gonna ban this person. Need another moderator. Nico is never around. Stylishfail, do you want to be a mod? Let's see. Oh my gosh, so many things in chat. Stylishfail, could you send me your poem? I want to read it. Something to request. Post it on Discord. Yeah, the Discord command is not !Discord. Stylishfail. It's Isle, ISLE, like an island, because it's the Isle of the Lotus Eaters. Just so if I do get like a big like hate raid, people try to do like !Discord and flood your Discord too. And that is a legitimate threat as a queer person on Twitch. That's smart. I claim no originality for the idea. I'm going to read your poem again, and then we'll continue with the latter half. And then maybe loop back to the first stanza, which we didn't talk about too much. Flow. When I was a knave, I filled my pants with pebbles. They were heavy, dirty, and wore my pockets down. All the evenings I made my way down a winding local lane, past panting, scowling joggers, by all the yapping men. I trudged through many flower bed, sneered at the warning signs. I smiled at frightened critters fleeing from my form. Then, in the full moon's light, I saw the pond or puddle, still water anyway, and heaved my pebbles in. I'm starting to understand why certain things don't flow. This is good. With every throw I tried to make a bigger wave, scatter white reflections to see my ripples spread. I dreamed of greater oceans and pebbles bigger than stars. To make my waves so grand, our moon would fall and drown. But when my pants grew bigger, and my pockets held more stones, I learned to tread more lightly across the flowers and lawns. I never threw like David, and my pebbles always drowned. Nor do I know my ripple that hit the furthest shore. Now I walk the footpaths and love my neighbors' tales. I cheer my local jogger and tend my garden's bloom. I keep my pockets empty and follow all the signs. My nights I spend at home mending kiddos' pants. Flow by Stylishfail. Yes, Drowning Devil, you did look at it. It's credited on the Google Doc. I didn't have enough space to screenshot that, but it does say like special thanks to Drowning Devil. Stylishfail, you can see that you choose words like ornaments made of diamond. It's pretty. I love that. Love that description. Little beautiful baubles of word. There are many great little ornaments. You've not gotten your hat yet, Turning Devil. Excited for you to get your hat. Really enjoying this tea today. It's like an orange hibiscus black tea, and I thought it would be sweet, but it turns out, since it's like orange peel, it's quite bitter, and I like this a lot. What can I say? I'm a fire boys. Yes, you are, Dreamy. Me too, though. I'm a bit worried it got lost in the mail. Sounds fancy, Stylishfail. It is. We have a bunch of fancy loose leaf tea that have been sitting on the top shelf of a shelf and of a cabinet. And I'm realizing my love for tea. So, the second part. When the pants grew bigger. But when my pants grew bigger and my pockets held more stones. I think at this point I want to talk more deeply about what the stone means. Stone, let's do this again. Symbol time. Stone. Chat. What meanings and connotations and symbology is associated with stone? There's a lot. So there are no wrong answers as well. What does stone mean? This is so much better than the university status quo. Are you crazy? I am crazy. And it's why. We're all crazy. You have to be crazy. You have to be crazy to be a poet. And the university status quo don't like crazy people. What does stone represent? It's been in the US for a week. Interesting. Stone. What is stone? What does stone represent? So many things. It's so broad that it might be hard, but anything. Anything that stone might. You can think of 4 elements and earth signs as opposed to air signs or whatever. You could think of stone as a building material. You could think of strength. Yes, strength is one thing that stone represents. Stone is very strong, stone is very durable, and stone is strong. Stone lasts. The Colosseum still stands. The Parthenon still stands because they're made of stone. Even older stone structures, the oldest ones, Göbekli Tepe in I forgot where, maybe Syria. I love marble floors. They're made of stone. Marble, that's interesting because marble is a very, I think, sometimes it can be quite like ornate. Having things made of stone, there can sometimes be an association there with like fine, because it's made to last. What's the word for like a lot of things that are different but are all still the same in the end? That's also stones. A lot of things that are different, like stones all being different things, but then they'll fall under a category, perhaps. Politicians, Stylishfail. Egyptians loved to do these things with gold. Stone is a specific element. Yes, in our 4. Stones are definitely like multifarious. The idea of stone contains multitudes, but I think we need more specific than a description of that there are many stones. Though this is admittedly like a very broad category. Stone. But there's like different types of stones. Exactly, and that's why marble can be ornate and a stone like gravel can be sort of dreary. My heart is not made of stone. My heart is made of light, I hope. Oh, so a heart of stone. What is a heart of stone? It's generally cold-hearted. It is inflexible. It is unloving. And I like cold. Cold stone. This is something we associate stone with as a symbol. Stone cold. It's an expression we use. This is one way to find meanings of symbols, is look at expressions. Heart of stone, stone cold. What are other expressions using stone? That's a way. Might be too broad. Earth? Yeah, earth. That's like broad, but it is true. We're on a big rock in space. Steve Austin, I don't know who that is. This is like crocodile tears. What is like crocodile tears? Just sort of expressions? Idioms? A wrestler. Yeah. That makes sense. Oh, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Gotcha. Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Strength, ornate, fine, cold, earth. How about stable? If we are standing on a big piece of rock, it's heavy. It is not movable. It is stable. Rock can represent age and history. One can look at the strata of a canyon and understand history. One can look at a stone and know, or a mountain, that it has been there for thousands and thousands, millions of years. Stone has age. Stone has history to it. When we carve things in stone, we know that they are not temporary. Set in stone. There's another expression we use. And this might be hard, perhaps in like a second language, but set in stone, we say if something is not going to change. The time that I stream is set in stone because I have no intention of changing it. Now, it might still change because I am not made of stone. Meteorites are made of stone, but star rocks. Very true. Stone has like many different meanings, and it can refer more broadly to like space and stuff. Onyx Pokemon. Isn't Onyx a steel type? Or is Onyx steel rock? Onyx. Onyx is a bunch of rocks. There's like a horn, right? Looks kind of like a skull. Onyx. I do my best. Steelix is the steel type evolution. You are so true. Your food tastes like ice, but you've made it so you've got to eat it. I feel that, Drowning Devil. This I've done and suffered for as well. So Onyx is a stone type. See, okay, this is gonna sound crazy. Pokemon types are probably a great way to understand symbols in poetry and literature. Because when we look at something like a water type Pokemon, we know that it is like flowing and able to change and is mutable. When we look at a steel type Pokemon, it is durable and it does not change. You look at an air type Pokemon and it is sort of similar to water, but they have more energy. They're able to fly. A lightning type Pokemon is fast. And you look at something like lightning as a symbol, and it also has those connotations with speed. And like a lightning bolt of thought or a crackle of energy. So in that way, if you're looking at something, a symbol that's like stone, you could in fact think of like a Pokemon type and say, well, how is this represented? And in the same way, we use symbols. We talk about stone in, say, literature, and that informs us and gives us ideas about what stone might mean and how it might impact like the piece of text.
that is another like based clip for YouTube and TikTok right there. Uh, when I compared poetry to D&D campaigns, did quite well on YouTube Shorts. Every type has a specific design language. Electric types are usually pointy, grassy's rounder. Fairy types look fabulous. Exactly. I think if we're thinking about like symbol analysis, like it's not even like Pokemon types are symbolism because we take rock as a symbol, as a broad category, and we express it and are able to express it in certain like specific ways because we understand the connotations of something being made of stone and being durable, and grass and fairies looking fabulous. Like it informs how things look, how things act, how things feel, what colors they are. And that's like exactly symbolism. That's the point. Symbolism's like a shorthand. Oh, this is like a great connection. This is Pokemon, great teaching tool. Oh my gosh, thank you. Dreamy, you said Onyx. This. Oh, thank you. High people are so smart. I'm lurking while getting ready for work, but I have to say, this is so on brand. I love Judy's brain. It's fun up here. I think if we're not taking things that are familiar to us and using them to express and teach, then we're not teaching correctly. If I can teach poetry through the lens of Pokemon and Dungeons and Dragons, which are also like accessible things on Twitch, it's going to be so much easier to understand for everyone in this audience and myself, because these are things we're familiar with. These are things we love. These are fun things. And it just takes a little bit of like legwork to connect them. And then you're able to have Pokemon teach you about poetry and have D&D teach you about poetry. See the old YouTube shorts. Like that's so true. Can't wait for the class where Ginny tells us all about poetry through Pokemon. I mean, basically, yeah. Why not? Now, I don't know that much about Pokemon myself, but I'm being brought into playing Pokemon Showdown by a girl that I'm sort of into, so I'm learning. I don't think that connection would have happened without Dreamy in chat and the trans girl that I'm down bad for. Very funny. Very funny. Oh. But I'm still single. Best reason to get into new hobbies for other people, or because they create new connections for your poetry brain. I think the best reason is because, yeah, the more things I know, the more I can connect to poetry. Everything goes back to get with hot people. I mean, that's probably number 2. I thought you were gonna say single. I am single. She lives 2,000 miles away, and I have no access to her. So, we can be attracted to each other over the phone for many, many moons. And you're talking about that girl. Yeah, this is the only girl that I'm, like, attracted to right now, because I could not keep myself from getting into a relationship if I was attracted to someone 5 feet away from me. So I can be attracted over the internet. Also, it improves your life and art, I guess. I guess new hobbies improve your life. I write violent things, and it drives me crazy sometimes. Dreamy, it's like okay to write violent things. We have someone in chat, Pinguino Man, who is the aforementioned person from Singapore, who writes deeply violent, like, body horror poetry, and it's beautiful and powerful. the what one tends to write and the ways that one like finds themselves expressing, there is no one that is like better or worse than another. And that's important. Like a violent poem that speaks to the nature of life or a violent book that speaks to the nature of life is no better or worse than a very peaceful one. Some people might not like one or the other, and that's okay. But there's an audience for everything, and there is justification for everything. I improved from a flight away to 3 hours away. Good job, Stylishfail. Me with Hosier. At this rate, I'm dating myself soon. Yeah, dude. Hosier is so attractive. And Too Sweet is such a good song. I relate to him in that song. Me with my coffee black, my whiskey neat, which is how I like alcohol if I do drink it, which I don't like it anymore. And just like the intensity, you know? Multiple people in chat who are into people states away is too tortured poet. That's why we're such romantics. That's so true. It's very poetic to... It's also very poetic to only interact with someone through speaking and language. It's very poet of me to do. I'm a lesbian, but damn, Hosier. Yeah. Hosier can take me any day. That's all I'm going to say. Oh my gosh. We are some collective simps. I mean, yeah, like, as one should. All of this we were trying to understand stone. Stone, I think, is durable and stable. Stone is like constitution, if we're talking about a D&D stat. And stone is also connected with history and memory. And place, and where we are. Which I think makes the stones an excellent symbol for something relating us to home. Some people are gym rats and bodybuilders. Others are fantasists and romantics. I'm sort of gym ratty as well. You don't see it very well when I'm wearing like clothes, and I'm gonna keep wearing clothes on stream. That was a real dangerous thing to say on Twitch. But I love exercising. Being both seems like something a psychopath or a masochist would do. I would generally put myself in the second boat. You have to start being at the gym for your health. Yes, you do. Take care of yourself, Drowning Devil. I'm watching you. I see back through your screen. Long stare. So, boo, don't watch me. So we take stone. And if we think of stone as stability and memory, these are two that fit my narrative and my interpretation. As we grow more and spend more time in a place, our pockets will hold more stones. We will become more weighed down physically and mentally by the memories of this place, by the history and the comfort we have in a place. We learn to like it. We learn that comfort. And I think this is where some amount of like melancholy comes from. Having some or not melancholy, the other one about the past, where you think back to the past and enjoy it and like it, but it's in the past, so it's sort of sad. What is that word that's on the tip of my tongue? Nostalgia. Yes. I think this is a way to describe nostalgia. Nostalgia is the stones that you picked up in a place as a child, still sitting in the bottom of your pockets, and every so often you rummage around and pull out a stone, and when you pull that stone out, it reminds you of home. And the stone is very far away, you were very far away, or not very far away. And it is a stone of another time. You don't remember why you picked up the stone. You don't remember why you love the stone, but the stone is still beautiful. That's nostalgia. Some poetry. I once put my phone and a rock in the same pocket. My phone broke. I once took my phone and snapped it in half. I also once took a rock and smashed my phone to pieces. I'm very violent toward phones. Psychosis is a wild thing. The only victims of my psychosis really are like myself and my phones, though, so it's better than other choices. But nostalgia, place, memory, weight. These are the stones. And now that we have this care, still not great, no, absolutely not great. Now that we have this care and this memory and this connection to the place, more of them and more weight, well, we're also heavier. So we must tread more lightly. We must care about the place we live. Not throw away our memories, not send them out into the world hoping they can make a change, not reject the comfort that we have and the care that we have in the place we are. But instead, to keep them. And not think so much about those faraway places. This is a maturity, this is a growing up, and this is a care for one's place. I've tried to access past lives, but it seems that it's not very cosmologically permissible. It seems there's something blocking things that I need to know, because you access the ancestral collective memory. I think we can lose our ego. This is something that people talk about a lot. The Buddhists will tell you that it's possible to see past lives, and the Buddhists are also ones who try to dissolve their egos or control their egos and escape them and escape attachment. And I think once you theoretically, if you fully detach from your own memory and your own existence, you'd probably just let yourself drift into other existences. Cosmologically permissible is possibly a great description of why we cannot, or why it is a struggle for. And I don't know, I've never experienced a past life. It's just called psychosis. No, psychosis is present, at least for me. Psychosis was like, I am God, I am more lives than I am now, but all in one. This was almost an inverse. Psychosis for me was deeply ego-fed. Mania, I think, in fact, was very ego-fed. Seems that human beings do not want to be a collective. They're attached to such individualistic concepts. This causes pain and suffering. I think let's not throw that out there. I think so. Psychosis means a lot of things. Well, psychosis is a specific medical condition, and it's also one that I have genuinely suffered. So I'm comfortable talking about psychosis, but I think calling something psychosis is similar to calling something psychotic or psychopathic, where people use these words broadly, in the same way that people will describe the weather as bipolar. And we do need to be careful about using medical terms for real people that real people suffer as descriptors of other things. Now, perhaps you've experienced psychosis, Turning Devil, in which case it may be similar to your psychosis. But it's not that it's called psychosis, because we're also calling it something of past lives and collective memories, and something entirely different, which people tend to describe in consider real. So, language is dangerous, but language is also beautiful. I guess it's what I've experienced is more similar to heavy dissociation. Maybe that's what I'm talking about more likely. I'm terrible with terms. More of a curious child who tries to make connections with words. Sorry if these awarded weird. I'm having to do... Oh, are worded weird. I need text-to-speech. No worries. No need to apologize for one's speech. Terrible with terms. More curious child. This is... Keep that dreamy. I don't know how old you are, but keep that childlike curiosity of words and connections. I've been cultivating it back into my life, and I'm enjoying it thoroughly. We all need to be a little more childish. A lot more of the time. No, we don't need to. It would benefit us. It would benefit many to be more childish and appreciate that, and I want to be more childish. Texas speech does not do good with, southern accent and text-to-speech. Text-to-speech, not the same as Texas speech because you're from Florida. It's funny. Now I walk the footpaths and love my neighbors' tales. I cheer my local jogger and tend my garden's bloom. So we invert the stanza 2 and 3 here as we get to the end. And this is the person realizing that the weight of the stones is not something of a weapon. It's not something of a tool. The weight of the stones is something comforting and beautiful and full of memory and nostalgia and love. And now those who we dismissed as sort of full of folly in their connection to this place, in their tales. What was once yapping is now tales, and tales are what other than memory? Not even so much as a young to old, this poem is, but this poem is almost the motion from a rejection of memory and the past and a place for something like the future and change, transforming from that rejection to an acceptance and an understanding and a comfort in the weight of what is around oneself. Which makes aging sound beautiful. Like, Stylishfail, you convince me in this poem to grow old. And I'm not someone who wants to do that. I feel like visiting California ain't Texas. I've seen a lot of pictures of purple and pink marijuana. California's fun. One upside of living here. Stylishfail, I just speak truth. Your poetry is wonderful. Stylishfail, do you want to make me jealous? Something that's been on my mind since I got hopeful too. This poem, age, or weed? So I keep my pockets empty. And follow all the signs. My nights I spend at home mending kiddos' pants. Being excited to grow old. Aging. Yeah. Oh, like hope in life. This probably makes sense. As I'm becoming more hopeful for myself and introspection, I'm desiring more so age. I have a few interpretations of I keep my pockets empty. I'd like to think of this person as taking their stones and giving them to children. Telling stories.
not taking anymore and holding, but giving. A transition of age, sure, a transition of memory to place, but also a transition of selfishness to selflessness. Could be another interpretation of this poem, another axis laid out on this track of time. And follow all the signs. My nights I spend at home mending kiddos' pants. And this is really the giving. The giving to the child so they may again, in a very deeply beautiful cyclical manner, fill their pants with pebbles and get their hopes up and hope for themselves and want to change and change something and be someone as children must do. It's almost described as requisite in this cycle to fill one's pants with pebbles, to get dirty and heavy and throw them and wear down your clothes and the things around you and cause damage. Because that is going to lead to the realization in the endless cycle that we've created to mending the pants of the next kid. I saw the getting rid of the stones part as like getting rid of your childhood. Not once, but like your ideas and beliefs. Yeah, that certainly. Getting, not having that attachment to childhood, but also like, what is the childhood? The childhood is the change. The childhood is the selfishness. Ah, David. Yes, I glossed over this because I explained it last time when we started this poem. David refers to David and Goliath in the Bible. He threw stone. So he had a sling, and he threw a stone and killed a giant who was like 10 feet tall named Goliath. And this was a symbol of like overcoming adversity through God. Am I Christian? Is Stylishfail Christian? I could assume that Stylishfail is maybe not, due to Stylishfail's transness. I'm not Christian. You're an atheist. I am not Christian. I haven't thought much about spirituality. I think me and Stylishfail decided I was Christian, or not Christian, atheist or something. Because I say I'm like a hopeful, I think I'm basically an atheist. I'm an atheist who wants to believe. I thought he was a childhood friend, not that old. Dreamy, a running joke is that Stylishfail is like as old as time in this chat because Stylishfail is like 35, and that's old to me. And so we joke that Stylishfail was like there for World War One and there with the ancient Greeks, and so for David to be Stylishfail's childhood friend would be you playing into that joke without knowing it. There's a very large wave of conservatism worldwide. There is. The political climate of the world is fascinating. I burst out laughing too. Stylishfail, as old as time. And I like this, my pebbles always drowned. I wanted to point this out. I sort of skipped this stanza somehow. But the child wanted the moon to drown. And if we use the same word in two places in a poem, it is almost certainly inextricably connected. Unless the word is used like 30 times. Drowning means similar things here. The moon drowning was to make such a change in the world with one's waves. As I sort of figured, as I decided, as I analyzed.
So for instead one's pebbles, one's hopes for change to drown is to instead let, rather than the moon drowning, rather than the pebble causing the moon to drown, the pebble just goes in, splashes down in the water, and stays there and drowns. And there is no wider change. There are no wider ripples, no furthest shores. They just sink. And that's okay. Because in exchange, we get the beauty that is the final two stanzas. It's scary. We got an extreme right coalition too here. That is scary. But it is the world we live in. Earlier there was the joke about all the politicians being the same. There's a line in The Left Hand of Darkness. I read this on stream a few streams ago, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to find it, but it's in Orgorein. And darkness and time. I found it. I read this before, but the line is just, to oppose something is to maintain it. Because if you simply oppose, if you do not actually make change, then, well, you're just maintaining the thing. You can oppose all you want, but you're never going to change. A line later, to be an atheist is to maintain God, because your lack of belief exists within the system of gods. Fascinating book this is. We will always be here. CEO, killer is your hero. Our existence is resistance. Let's keep Twitch chat friendly. Terms and conditions. Good passage, Jenny. But the first one especially. Yes. I mean, yeah, Twitch generally doesn't like people talking about politics that much anymore, or you have to, like, flag your channel, but, I mean, I'm fine with talking about current events and such, and I think many people maintain that the CEO killer, Luigi Maglione, I think is his name, was a hero. And this is so cute. Mangione. Okay, Mangione. Luigi Mangione. Okay, that's his name. And this is understandable in the given political climate, with the ways that people suffer from, like, healthcare in America. I don't believe that murder is ever a good thing. I'm very Kantian in that view. So, but I understand. You saying his name is cute? Ha 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 ha. So, Stylishfail, this is my analysis of flow. You had a couple questions in the Google form. What is going to show up? Hey, that's the one. You had some, let's see, we're probably at 94. Oh, no, 90. Oh, no, you were earlier. Aha. I want to improve flow/rhythm. I want to work on use of metaphor/simile. Could you add one more question? Yeah, you can add questions, as many questions as you want as we go. And the flow storytelling, and then the use of specific words like and. And these questions we will look at answering. I think I have something clear and specific to say on flow in your poem, and this will probably help you, because flow is about patterns, and I understand why some of the patterns work and some don't. And you can add questions as much as you want as we go. I am going to go to the bathroom first, and again, run an ad. Please do practice self-care, all of you. Water, bathroom, whatever, cozy blanket, anything. And I will be back shortly.
Hello and welcome back. I am Ginny, the poet of Twitch, 2/3 Lotus, across the internet. So, you do ask a very good question here, Stylishfail. I wanted to use community as a theme, but I think that didn't come across much. Okay, let me ask a question to all of you. What is community? As a term. You can go find definitions if you want, that's acceptable. What is community? The community is gray. Some communities are gray. A group of people living life together. It's a great answer. Etymologically speaking, however you want to define community, dreamy. What is it to you? What is it under a certain framework or a certain structure of definition? It doesn't matter. When I ask questions like this, I just want to have thoughts to guide us. And none of them are wrong. So it can be etymologically speaking, which comes from communion. Those who you break bread with. We've actually talked about this on chat before. What are we asking? What's community, Drowning Devil? What is it? Anything? Any thoughts? No hesitation, no wrong answers. What is community? It is a mathematical set in which people or beings of any species that share a common space or environment. Okay. So we have a sharing of common space and environment, and we have people living life together. So there's a sense of adjacency or interconnectedness. You're badass. It's an interesting definition. It's a very formal one in a way, and it just describes a common environment, those who exist together, which is in a way very similar to Stylishfail, a group of people living life together. Are there definitions that don't require proximity? A place where people with similar viewpoints or hobbies or whatever come together. Okay, so there's a feeling of similarity. Interesting, and still coming together. So this is a union of people. It is a group. There's an adjacency in community. Similar is interesting as well. Or not of. Viewpoints or hobbies. Yeah. Also, are you per se in community if you live close together? That's an excellent question. Is an apartment building where no one talks to each other community? It's a common environment. So maybe it's more than proximity. Let's say you have a classroom. Let's say we have Twitch chat. Let's say we take my community. Right? We call the Discord and the people in chat and everyone a community. Do we all have the same viewpoints? Are we all similar? I mean, we have similar hobbies. We're brought together by poetry, almost universally. We don't have the same views. We disagree on a lot of things in chat. And that's beautiful too. So, these aren't perfect, but these are like getting there. Agency is important because with personal agency, you belong or not to that particular immersion. Okay. So a lack of agency is maybe not a community. A forced community is not one at all. Community is people coming together as a sort of voluntary union. Mix a little programming into poetry, as you should. I think you are in community. In like an apartment? Is that what you're... I think that's in an apartment building. Just not a very strong one. No, poetry is gay. What do you mean poetry is gay? We're all... Lots of us are queer here. I'm trans. Stylishfail is trans. Drowning Devil is trans.
Is Penguino Man gay? I think Penguino... Like, I haven't actually, like, had this established, but Penguino Man has gay themes in his poems, which are pretty based. And we have many other trans people in chat. What? He's not cis straight, at least. What is gay? Originally referring to homosexuality, men liking men, women liking women. Gay has been broadened in a way to be conflated with queerness, which is any sort of non-conforming gender or sexuality. So trans people, gay people, asexual people. Gay sometimes becomes a blanket term. Gay is also sort of like gay people or queer people call things gay, mostly just as a joke. Dude, I don't even know. I'm not even sure if Penguin's gender. Penguin is male, as far as I know. Anyway, he uses he him. Yes, this I'm fairly certain of. Okay, let's get back on community. Queer people are a community. It's certainly true. Poetry is gay is actually so real. Poetry is sexually deviant. Like but community is some amount of coming together. You're angry at the LGBT community? I think there are legitimate reasons. I am in ways angry at certain parts of the LGBT community sometimes because they're internally hateful and exclusive. I don't know if being angry at the whole community is something that is reasonable, because then you're angry at everyone you've been talking to, Dreamy. Elaboration. Because I barely learned English and you forced me to learn more complicated grammar. Oh, those queers. Yep. That's what we do. We teach. He dances. Only he dances. Everybody dance, but he dances. I see. Yeah. Plural dances for singular. Now just wait. Just wait until someone tells you about the singular they and they them pronouns. They can refer to one person or multiple. But regardless, it's going to be they dance, even though it would be he dances if we're using a singular they. We're not going to say they dances like the way we say she dances, even though they can refer to a single person. That's messed up. You see, I feel like you can find internal hatred in any community. That's true. It's very true. Community is the way that people come together and understand each other. This is maybe like something we've sort of gotten to. A coming together and understanding, a connection. Now, we talked about someone going from being this kid who's sort of apart from things, they don't quite like the people around them, into someone who cares for their neighbors and their the people around them and their community and kids and the people around them, and comes to give back and care for others. The selfish to selfless axis that we talked about. I did not use the word community, but I think it's important. Like, let's say I cannot say every word that relates to a poem in analysis. It relates to community, yes, but I don't need to say it relates to community for that to be part of my interpretation, because it relates to the people around us and the way we age and place and what home means and the people around us. And these are all ideas of community. And caring for others is community. And growing up around people is community. So, and lack of community. Yeah, there's this person who throws away the stones and scatters and wants to be out. So these are things that exist within the idea of community. And I think, so why I asked you to define community was to point out what community means. And it's that coming together. It's about that understanding, some amount of care maybe. And you do describe this in the poem, which makes community a theme. So even if I don't talk about community as a theme, we maybe talk about what community means, what this poem means, and if we see an overlap, then this poem probably speaks to community. So even though I didn't say that it does, it certainly does. Because you have so many people with different viewpoints and beliefs coming together. That is a difficult thing about community, and that's why we have the child who's in tension with the people around them. If I were to identify my gender, I would say I'm non-binary, because I want to be a demonic angel like Griffith from Berserk. When you look at the illustrations, you don't know if it's a boy or a girl. That is based. So, this book is science fiction. It's not fantasy. It's probably a little bit of a reach from like the things you enjoy. This book, The Left Hand of Darkness. But it is science fiction about a envoy from space who is male, and he comes and has to interact and integrate with a society of people who have no gender. They are all androgynous. They only take on gendered roles during reproduction, where their physiology literally like shifts to allow like intercourse and reproduction. You might like this, given like how you're describing like the demonic angel. It talks about gender and the implications of not necessarily having it in a sexless society. It's called The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. And I cannot recommend this book enough now that I finished it. It has politics, it has romance, it has history and world building and language. I found it hard to get through. It is hard to get through. There's some really like weird ideas and politics that we're not meant to understand, because we're seeing the story through Genli I from space, who does not understand the politics and customs of this place, it drops us into the same confusion of the main character, and that's why it's a difficult book. But it all started when I drank an entheogenic tea from an indigenous tribe in Brazil, and an epiphany about reality. So I created another identity and started having to research and live a life different from my previous one. That sounds fascinating, and I don't think it would be very safe for me mentally to take psychedelics, because I react very harshly to substance. But that sounds quite transformative. When I think about how I want to be looked at by others, I want people to look at me and see a man. I don't want them to question themselves. Though I do want to be a buff dude with luscious hair. Yeah, and that's totally valid too. This book gives like one view of gender, and non-binary and androgyny is basically an aesthetic. And some people like the aesthetic. I want people to see a beautiful person. That is that's like a great goal. It's not about so much of those conventions. It is just, I want them to see me as beautiful. It's good. I always don't want to become an old woman, not an old man. Yeah, that's so fair, Dreamy. Definitely agree with Drowning Devil. Being an old woman, I'm stoked to be a grandmother. I think you're asking, Dreamy, whether Drowning Devil feels ugly. So that would be, do you, not are you. If you're okay with me correcting or helping you with English. But it would be, do you feel ugly, if you're trying to ask whether Drowning Devil sees themselves as like unattractive. Which is also sort of like a very forward statement about appearance and maybe a hard question for someone to answer. So there's that too. I feel ugly all the time. I do not like my body. It feels wrong. This is deeply understandable, Drawing Devil. And we get there. You've got a lot. To struggle with. I feel for you deeply, Drawing Devil. Locationally, situationally, the people around you relationally, societally, community that you sort of probably are rejected from. I don't find it hard to answer. It's my life. It would make life more difficult if I didn't acknowledge it. Sure. I just think sometimes, like, when we look at, like, different languages and speakers of other languages, there can often be, like, a disconnect between the way questions are phrased in languages, and English usually doesn't lend itself to just asking someone, like, or maybe, like, American culture. People, like, if you ask someone that, people would probably often be off-put, and I think, like, people in this community happen to be more willing to talk about their feelings than others, and that's good. I feel so much more confident, even though I used to be hotter. I think I've gotten hotter, which is excellent. For example, I don't feel wrong, but I feel wrong about the effects I have on certain people. That's why I asked if you're ugly. Interesting. Also, cultural difference. Dutch people will ask a lot of very personal and direct questions. Americans do not do this. Americans are very disconnected. Americans are not in community with each other on any sort of scale. There's the confidence. The best you'll ever have. So, one of the questions, Stylishfail, was on the flow of this poem. And I think I came to understand over multiple readings of this poem why it flows where it flows. I'm going to read it again. When I was a knave, I filled my pants with pebbles. They were heavy, dirty, and wore my pockets down. I'm literally going to, like, rate each of these stanzas on how well they flow. How many stanzas do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10. So we can do out of 10. All the evenings I made my way down a winding local lane past panting, scowling joggers by all the yapping men. So my least favorite in terms of flow, I know this is sort of harsh to put numbers to it, but this is going to make things easier. Then in the full moon's light, I saw the pond or puddle, still water anyway, and heaved my pebbles in. This is the least flowing stanza out of them all. Okay, so this is 1 out of 10. With every throw I tried to make a bigger wave, scatter white reflections to see my ripples spread. This one's high. I think this one, now I walk the footpaths and love my neighbor's tales. I cheer my local jogger and tend my garden's bloom. This is probably 10 out of 10. I never threw like David, and my pebbles always drowned, nor do I know my ripple that hit the furthest shore. With every throw I tried to make a bigger wave, scatter white reflections to see my ripples spread. This is 9 out of 10. I dreamed of greater oceans, and pebbles bigger than the stars. To make my waves so grand, our moon would fall and drown. This is probably 2 or 3. But when my pants grew bigger, and my pockets held more stones, I learned to tread more lightly across the flowers and the lawns. So we'll do this one as 2 out of 10. I don't like this way, but we're doing it. I trudged through many flower beds, sneered at warning signs. I smiled at frightened critters fleeing from my form. This is probably 8 out of 10. Third best. All the evenings I made my way down the winding local lane, past panting scowling joggers by all the yapping men. When I was a knave, I filled my pants with pebbles. They were heavy, dirty, and wore my pockets down. So, but one man's grew bigger and pocket some more stones. I learned generally across the flowers in yellow. Okay. I never threw like David, and my pebbles always drowned, nor do I know my ripple that hit the furthest shore. Okay, 1, 2. This is going to be 3 out of 10 for flow, but that's like okay, actually. No, this is 4. 3 is... this one, maybe. 4, this is maybe like 5. And these are sort of rough. So we need 7 and 6. Well, but when my pants grew bigger, my pockets saw more stones. I learned to tread more lightly across the flowers and lawns. I never threw like David, and my pebbles always drowned, nor do I know my ripple that hit the furthest shore. 7 out of 10. 6 out of 10. This is just my, like, gut instinct. And I'm going to explain what I think makes the 10s better and the 1s worse after I catch up with chat. So many. Oh my gosh, so many chats. Y'all are popping off. I know I'm not attractive. I know that I'm not an attractive woman. I've been told a million times that I would be pretty if I stayed a woman. But you know, I don't feel like one, so I'm kind of going against my goal. Exactly, attractive woman. Oh, Yoga, you've been told you were attractive. Interesting. Stylishfail, was this a refusal or a masochistic desire for a friendship? I'm better a happy dude than a beautiful woman. 100% a refusal. Though I'm not sure I'll ever be happy, lol. I was given every reason not to be. And why go against fate and such? Because fate is meant to be gone against. I'll say real quick, I feel fine. These are my neutral thoughts. Yeah, I know. Medication. I'm allowed to go hard on you. Yes, ma'am. Take a milligram of some suck, man. When you not understand. Said you don't know if you'll ever be happy. Oh, these are difficult things, yes. Dreamy, they refuse you. It's Twitch chat. You gotta live with these things. The world is harsh out there. Acceptance, rejecting. Stylishfail clearly is a fan of, like, joking and your vibe. I don't think Stylishfail is going to, I still think Stylishfail is going to refuse you. This I can see clearly. You have good vibes, Dreamy. This is how it be. So let's look at 1 out of 10. That in the full moon's light, I saw upon... Let's start with 10. So I want to be beautiful, because no one will reject me. Beautiful people get rejected all the time. I've rejected beautiful people. Now I walk the footpaths and love my neighbor's tales. I cheer my local jogger and tend my garden's bloom. Why does this flow? This flows because of repetition. This I tried to say last time when I was half asleep, and this I said about author Brian Liu's poem a few streams back, is that repetition and things like rhyme and repeated ideas allow for motion or encourage motion. And what is the repetition here? I walk, I cheer. The same kind of word and verb. So we have I verb, I verb. I walk, I cheer. And then and love and tend. And verb and verb. It works really well because basically the second word is always the verb. And it gives us this expectation that lets us move through the stanza very flowingly. Now, I walk the footpaths and love my neighbor's tales. I cheer the local jogger and tend my garden's bloom. We're able to sit in that space, every second syllable, second word, and just know that it's a verb. And this gives us momentum. This lets us kind of roll along. I found that stanza very choppy. I think this one flows beautifully. And this is seen in metric verse. When we have the same pattern in iambic pentameter of da-dum, 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 da-dum with a rhyme, da-dum, 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 rhyming there, then we have something to expect, a way to move forward. It moves us through the line. Now I walk the footpaths and love my neighbor's tales. I cheer my local jogger and tend my garden's bloom. And of course, one person's flow is going to be different from another's. Let's look at 9. With every throw I tried to make a bigger wave, scatter white reflections to see my ripples spread. With every is a couple words that introduce and lead us to throw. With every throw I tried to make a bigger wave, scatter white reflections to see. So we have this repetition again, and it doesn't quite do it in the first and third stanzas, but 2 and 4 definitely have nice motion. 8. I trudged through many a flower bed, sneered at the warning signs. I smiled at frightened critters fleeing from my form. High caliber. And I trudged, I smiled. This gives me the feeling of motion, the same sort of setup. Now, the reason that I don't like this one quite as much is because you have sneered and fleeing, and there's slightly different modes of the verb. Fleeing is a gerund, ing. Sneered is a past tense verb. And if they sort of mirror each other, like let's say, I trudged through many flower beds. Sneering at warning signs, I smiled at frightened critters fleeing from my form. I would actually feel that flows much better. Or if we did, I trudged through many flower bed, sneered at the warning signs, I smiled at frightened critters, so they fled. See, I think the issue is that sneered, like sneer and flee, they sort of have that E sound. But the past tense of flee would be fled, and I don't think that works with sneered because it changes the feeling of the verb. So I would almost look at like sneering for that, or ignoring, or whatever. Sneering is fine. 7 out of 10. But when my pants grew bigger, and my pockets held more stones, I learned to tread more lightly across the flowers and lawns. Why does this flow? But when my pants grew bigger, I learned to tread more lightly. There is sort of a past tense here. When, looking back, when my pants grew, I learned to tread. There's a slight parallel feeling here of tense. It's not quite perfect. And something about, and my pockets, across the flowers. These relate to the prior line. This is a couplet. But when my pants grew bigger and my pockets held more stones, I learned to tread more lightly across the flowers and lawns. Neither is complete without the second line. And the second line gives a location to the previous one. Across and in my pockets, essentially, is what this says meaning-wise. These are, what is the word? A location word. Prepositional? No. Location word. Grammar. Positional words. There's a... Maybe it's just referring to positional words. Prepositions. Is that what I said? Preposition. So a preposition refers to place. A word governing, usually preceding a noun or pronoun, expressing relation to another word. The man on the platform. She arrived after dinner.
So these are words that describe location. And across is a preposition. And the idea of sort of in one's pockets is also prepositional in a meaning sense. It describes where the pockets are, or where the stones are in my pockets. In is a preposition. So in that way, there is a parallel meaning and a sort of parallel meaning. So I still think it flows. I never threw like David, and my pebbles always drowned, nor do I know my ripple that hit the furthest shore. Nor and never. It's a negative. But and my pebbles always drowned and that hit the furthest shore are pretty different in terms of the way like the verb is acting. We start with the subject. My pebbles always drowned. Here we say that hit verb into an object, the shore. So these are like very different structures of sentence, and I think that's why they don't feel like they flow with each other. 5 out of 10. All the evenings I made my way down a winding local lane, past panting, scowling joggers, by all the yapping men. This flow is not bad. Down, past, and by. These are prepositions. All the evenings I made my way down a winding local lane, past panting, scowling joggers, by all the yapping men. Maybe it's not that the flow is bad. It's just different. This one has one opening sentence, all the evenings, setting, and then gives us a bunch of preposition and location. And admittedly, having different flows is okay. We have a sort of 1-2-1-2 in a lot of the ones that worked best because these are very intentional feeling. But we could also have one sentence and then 3 things that flow and relate to each other, and this would sort of be a valid flow as well. So like this is 5 out of 10, but it's still good. It's just different. 4 out of 10. I keep my pockets empty and follow all the signs. My nights I spend at home. I keep, I spend. And then we have this and that we used before. And since it's in just the previous stanza, we sort of expect I walk and love. I cheer and fend. I keep and follow. I spend. We break the flow. Mending kiddos' pants. This is just judging how well the flow is done. But it's not about always flowing. A lack of flow is a poetic tool as well. And I actually really like the flow here, the breaking of the flow, even though it is not flowing. Because we end with this line, mending kiddos' pants. Breaking the flow tells us this is important enough to stick out. And having an extremely important feeling line, the last line, break the flow and connect back to the start, the holes in the pants, holes in the pockets, wore my pockets down. I did purposefully broke the flow for that line. Yeah, and it was because you had set it up. Now, or I walk and love, I cheer and tend, I keep and follow, I spend, mending. So this is very good. And it's clear that it's intentional because it's such an important line. And this is a reminder, like, we can talk about improving our flow. We don't always want to improve our flow. 3. When I was a knave, I filled my pants with pebbles. They were heavy, dirty, and wore my pockets down. Was and were, like, they're both, they are both passive voice verbs. When I was a knave, I filled my pants with pebbles. They were heavy, dirty, wore my pockets down. Now, one thing is the comma for 2 things. I really like this as a literary tool. They were heavy, dirty. But it forces pause. Because you cannot say they were heavy, dirty. Because then it sounds like they're connected. They were heavy, dirty, and wore my pockets down. Maybe you could move through it quicker. But when you're reading this as you go, you see heavy, comma, dirty as like the thing. And this sort of forces pause upon us and breaks the flow. Because we don't know. If we look ahead, we see there's an and we go, they were heavy, dirty, and wore my pockets down. You did put the break there on purpose, and I do like the break here as well. They were heavy, dirty, and wore my pockets down. It's a pause. But I wonder if and can actually go at the end of this. They were heavy, dirty, and they wore my pockets down. Because sometimes this going slow inadvertently puts emphasis on heavy and dirty. This I feel very much that heavy and dirty are emphasized most in this stanza. Because of the way where the break is. And if you said heavy, dirty, and, crossing out and here, it points us toward the next line, where we say, oh, clearly this is not the end of line 3. And will push us into, they wore my pockets down. When I was a knave, I filled my pants with pebbles. They were heavy, dirty, and they wore my pockets down. This flows much better. And then you also have like flow here. And then even a flow through all 3. I filled, they were, they wore. This is also really nice flow. They were, they wore. It's almost a rhyme. It feels like it connects. They were heavy, dirty, and they wore my pockets down. That repetition is a flow as well. 2 out of 10. I dreamed of greater oceans and pebbles bigger than the stars. To make my waves so grand, our moon would fall and drown. I dreamed, I did a thing. To make my waves is not quite as individually actionable. And then we have pebbles. And our moon is sort of like pebbles because it's just a noun. But our moon has some attachment to it. I dreamed of greater oceans and... Even... Like, you can't say my pebbles bigger than the stars, but... Like, I want either something specifying here, or, like, not the hour at this. Oh my gosh. Big link. What is this a link to? Probably something related to Pocket Cat, which I don't know what this is either. Hi, Caliber. Okay, I need to write something, but I'm gonna be something for my novel. It's gonna be something for your novel. That's excellent. That's excellent. One of my favorite movies, Dreamy? Worth by Elizabeth Allen Berry and Company, an independent short film by my friend. Dune, the new one. La La Land, probably. I don't know what else. There's some others I'm forgetting. So, I'm not quite sure how to fix this one. I dreamed of greater oceans. I dreamed of greater oceans and pebbles bigger than the stars. I sought a wave so grand. You know why this doesn't flow? Have I seen I Saw the TV Glow? Yes. Dune, as in Frank Herbert's Dune, science fiction. You have a rhyme here. This is actually like the only time you rhyme. I dreamed of greater oceans and pebbles bigger than the stars. I would make my waves so grand and, our moon would fall and drown. You set us up to expect like our moon would drown in farce or something. At least a near rhyme to stars. And this is probably why the flow is sort of frustrated. Which then actually, this I feel later. I still feel the desire for the rhyme in this stanza. But when my pants grew bigger and my pockets held more stones, I learned to tread more lightly across the flowers and the lawns. And lawns almost rhymes with stones. And I have this almost memory of my frustrated desire for a rhyme thanks to this stanza that it literally messes up the experience of the stanza after it. This I experienced, and I didn't know why I wanted lawns to rhyme with stones, but I did. And it's because of this rhyme, I think. So we might try to edit that. I think this breaks a lot of things you have going on, because you specifically do not rhyme in the whole poem, and I really like the flow without the rhymes. You do it very well. The best one doesn't rhyme. Now I walk the footpaths and love my neighbor's tales. I cheer my local jogger and tend my garden's bloom. It is simple, not rhyming, and quite pretty. So I think a rhyme actually messes up your poem there. That's something to note. I would almost strongly encourage getting rid of the rhyme. Then in the full moon's light, I saw the pond or puddle, still water anyway, and heaved my pebbles in. This does not flow, and it is not supposed to flow. Hyphen, still water anyway. Hyphen. It's a big pause, and it's a lapse. And I think it really contributes to the water feeling still. And I think it's just fine to break the flow there, especially if we do our best to flow before, because then still water stops us. It makes us think. And heaved my pebbles in. With every throw I tried to make a bigger wave, scatter white reflections to see my ripples spread. It gives the subject a chance to stop and reconsider and look at the beauty of the water, and they throw the pebbles in. This is beautiful. I like your least flowing stanza. So it's not about increasing flow. It's about where you use flow more intentionally. And I think if we really have stronger flow at the start, so that we can axe it in stanza 4, build back into the flow of youth, until we come back and break our flow at the end, to show a sort of recollection of the squandered beauty of earlier. We used to not care about the still water, and now we are content to break the flow and be still. This is beautiful, but it only works if the flow happens in the first 3 stanzas very strongly. I think the first stanza wants to flow better, and then flows throughout here, which might mean editing this one a bit. And then the rest you flow throughout. This is 7, this is 6, this is 10. And then we're okay with this one, like, being there. I'm like that student who is disrupting your literature class. No, it's okay, Dreamy. I appreciate the side conversation. I think learning while you're able to have other conversations and learning while you're able to like have the flexibility and freedom to still just like say what's on your mind is really important. I love the side conversation. I'm gonna get tea again because I have to run an ad break because this analysis has been going on forever. I think it's justified because I sort of cut it off before. No, it's so, there's so much, like, potential here. And it's already beautiful, but there's, like, more we can do.
Side conversations made me paranoid, even though it was a dynamic class. Yeah. I'm gonna run this ad. Now's the best time to have some side conversation, and I'll be right back with more tea. Welcome back to Ginny. Mom's home. Me being mom. This chat being my gang of youths. You heard dogs. Yeah, they were barking. Terrible viewers for weak-willed watchers. I think it's funny that it's like best viewers. Like, what makes one bot viewer better than another? You know? Alright. Found families. Easy answer, Drowning Devil. Stylishfail is my age times 1.75, so I can be the mom here. I like being the mom of the group. I need to have like sort of like carrying things with me. I mean to carry like Tylenol and like stuff in my bag and always look out for my friends, and we do, but I need to do better. I want to do better. rewiring the words. I'm going to read this again. I'm going to read this poem like I think this poem wants to be read. See, exactly that. Yeah. When I was a knave, I filled my pants with pebbles. They were heavy, dirty, and wore my pockets down. All the evenings I made my way down a winding local lane past panting, scowling joggers by all the yapping men. I trudged through many flower beds, sneered at the warning signs. I smiled at frightened critters fleeing from my form. Then in the full moon's light I saw the pond. Or puddle? Still water. Anyway. And heaved my pebbles in. With every throw I tried to make a bigger wave, scatter white reflections to see my ripples spread. I dreamed of greater oceans and pebbles bigger than the stars, to make my waves so grand our moon would fall and drown. But when my pants grew bigger, and my pockets held more stones, I learned to tread more lightly across the flowers and the lawns. I never threw like David, and my pebbles always drowned, nor do I know my ripple that hit the furthest shore. Now I walk the footpaths and love my neighbors' tales. I cheer my local jogger and tend my garden's blooms. I keep my pockets empty and follow all the signs. My nights I spend at home, mending kiddos' pants. Flow by Stylishfail. This is how I feel the poem wants to be read. Motion, stop. Motion, stop. Two pivotal moments in a life. And thus I think we want to flow to the first pause, stop, flow to the end, and stop. I heard it well. Thank you. I think it's very difficult to perform another's poem, especially like the first time. I read things, I stumble, I get the words wrong. This happens a lot, and it's never like a lack of understanding or like a disrespect to the work. It's just that it's not mine and it's new. And then the further I get into analysis, you've seen, I get better at performing it, or I get more honest and emotional and accurate with performing it, how I feel it wants to be performed. It's not about how I want to perform it. It's about how the poem is telling me to perform it. And if I were you, if I were Stylishfail in real life, and you talked about your poetry, and someone said, "Oh, read me something," that's how I would want to read the poem, and I would want to hear it from your voice. I would want to hear the honesty of the poet. I'm the analyst. I've created something new and different, but this is what the poem says to me. So, flow. Increase it in some places, leave it stopped in others, because flow is not just about motion through the whole poem. The breaking of the flow is as important as the flow. And that means maybe moving this and. I read it almost like the and was in this line as much as I felt I could. I'm not editing your poem for you, though. And it felt better. This one I just sort of like moved through and tried to keep it moving with like a forced movement and flow, and that helped. But now that I feel that the broader structure wants this stanza to flow, and knowing that you want certain things to flow. So the final step would be taking this stanza, and making sure the reader feels how much they want, how much the words want you to move. That's what I feel. And I walked downstairs to fill up my tea, and I just said, like, I love poetry. This poem is beautiful. And I think, like,
I think the general understanding is that poems here are unfinished, and I think it is so beautiful in how it's communicating in this current form. And I also think it can communicate just a little bit better in a few ways and turn into something like, I think, deeply memorable. It reminds me of, and I, not just because it's something you sent, but it reminds me of Under the Apple Tree, in a way. It has this sense of like the movement of daily life and also the communities around a person. And this is a person you sent me. This is someone who I can assume, at least in some small way, Rutger Copland is like an inspiration to you. And I mean, that was definitely an inspiration. Isn't it cool how analysis does that? Analysis lets me realize what inspired you. And that's why an analyst must be well read. And I don't know if he has more work, or given that he's local, if you're able to find like a collection, or even find, maybe if he's still alive, but if not, someone who knew him, a family member. But like, these are ways you can find more inspiration and improve and find your voice through another as a poet. There's an English collection? Yeah, beautiful. He's very famous. Yeah, then like, read more of him. Because you write well in the sort of way that so far I've seen he writes. He wrote a lot of poetry. And you can also emulate for practice. You don't need to try to become Rutger Copland, but I'm currently emulating Bukowski in a lot of the poetry I write because it allows me to learn a way of speaking. And then you might find you go read someone else and you emulate them and take things from their ideas and make some of it yours. You've already taken things from his feeling and put it into your work, and it's also uniquely and singularly yours, so that's beautiful. And it speaks to community. The theme of the first poets, or communities, the theme of the first Poets of Twitch anthology. A strong contender as the first poem that I think is intentionally set out to be part of the collection. Hard to beat. You know, a good centerfold poem. Thank you for the very actionable advice. This I definitely hope to do, especially in the context of the anthology that we're going to do, because I want it to be something where it should not be a finalized poem being sent to me. I want part of the process of the anthology to be taking a work and bringing it to a point where all parties feel it is beautiful, speaks honestly, and should be published. And I think there are like a few stumbles in this poem, but I think they're not difficult to alter. And no need to resubmit this poem. If I do decide it goes in the anthology, then edits can be made and looked at and talked about individually at that point. That's part of it. So this is all I get to see of flow. And I don't like necessarily want to see the edits in a sort of in the interest of fairness. It's about the initial, but it's about the initial poem as something that can be changed and something that can be but also stands in its own merit. Yeah, I figured you weren't.
And yeah, absolutely tinker with it. Make it something you would want to publish, you know? And use your feedback for further poems. Absolutely. Yes. Did you have other questions? So, one was about like and we already talked about this last time, but mostly the words only feel okay. It's only ever going to feel like there's too much of a word if you're using the word too much in the wrong place. For example, this and might feel extraneous when it's at the start of this line and not the end of the one before it. Would I change anything for the purpose of storytelling? It's not my story to tell. We have a child winding down this local lane, looking at the people, and then they stop. We have the older, and then we have them throwing, we have them actionably trying to make these changes, and then we have a maturity and a return to that original place. It's a fitting 3-act play. I'm not here to add ideas, and I think the ideas you have are presented in a logical way, in a way that makes sense, in a way that I enjoy, especially given how you've structured the poem itself. So, yeah. The story goes in an intelligible and beautiful order, linearly as life does, and then returns to the start. Why would one tell a life story backwards? I think there are great reasons to, actually. But this story likes to be told young to old. Because that's like what it's about. We all live our lives mainly in memories. I don't think that one's true. I do not live in memories. I'm influenced by them, sure, but I barely have them. We do live life very non-linearly, though. People who seem to have been gone come back into our lives. The people who seem like they will be forever will leave. The things we think we will believe forever become memory. Life does not move linearly, that's for sure. As much as we hope it does. It did sound neat, Stylishfail. And there's probably an argument for life being lived in memories. It's just not this story. I don't think this story tells us that at all. Well, it does. The memories are crucial to this story. The memories are very important. But the old person empties their pockets. So, perhaps not. I mainly said it to seem deep. I know, we do this sometimes, and then people say things to seem deep, and I need to look at how it actually is deep and how it slightly misses the mark, because faux deep platitudes are only faux deep when we don't understand them. And then it becomes genuinely deep in certain ways, and also, like, not deep, i.e. inaccurate, in other ways, and that's a beautiful thing. I'm fine with people throwing out language in a sort of non-intentional way, but you've seen that I love to interpret the language in my chat intentionally and pull apart the meanings. This is who I am. I am an analyst of all things, and be careful with your seeming deepedness, because I will peer into its murky existence and pull out the little shining bits. That's why I like throwing random sentences into chat. Throwing a bone to me. You always make sense of my bullshit in one way or another. That's all analysis is. Analysis is making sense of bullshit. Bullshit being poetry. Because all poetry is bullshit. Is it? I think it is. It's pretty BS. Very pretty BS. And all BS is poetry. Yeah, probably. Everything is poetry, Stylishfail. At least I make sure to turn all the BS into poetry, or as much of it as I can. I like streaming. It's so fun. I could do this for the rest of my life. This is so fun. I should read this poem again and conclude this this little thing. Give those swines a pearly necklace. Yeah. Here's Flow. Flow by Stylishfail. When I was a knave, I tried to... I messed it up. So much waxing over this, and I mess it up. Flow by Stylishfail. When I was a knave, I filled my pants with pebbles. They were heavy, dirty, and wore my pockets down. All the evenings I made my way down a winding local lane, past panting, scowling joggers by all the yapping men. I trudged through many flower beds, sneered at the warning signs. I smiled at frightened critters fleeing from my form. Then in the full moon's light I saw the pond, or puddle? Still water. Anyway. And heaved my pebbles in. With every throw, I tried to make a bigger wave, scatter white reflections to see my ripples spread. I dreamed of greater oceans and pebbles bigger than the stars to make my waves so grand our moon would fall and drown. But when my pants grew bigger and my pockets held more stones, I learned to tread more lightly across the flowers and the lawns. I never threw like David, and my pebbles always drowned, nor do I know my ripple that hit the furthest shore. Now I walk the footpaths, and I love my neighbors' tales. I cheer my local jogger and tend my garden's bloom. I keep my pockets empty and follow all the signs. My nights I spend at home, mending kiddos' pants. Flow by Stylishfail. Good poem. It was so good.
Thank you for watching. I encourage you to check out the rest of the series, follow if you enjoyed, and stop by Twitch if you want to share your own work. See you there.